Hey guys, it's Bear with the Gimpy Camper. I'm going to do an install video of the Softopper that I put on my Ram truck. I felt like this was pretty self-explanatory with the directions. There's a couple of things that I wish I would have known, so I'm going to share that stuff with you here. So all in all, not really that hard of a job. The first step is to take everything out of the boxes, and then you're going to look for the bed rails. You're going to get the one that has the driver's side front marked. Now once you have the front rail, you have to find the one that goes behind it. That's kind of where I wish they would have marked the driver rear rail, but they didn't have it marked. And so basically it's not that hard to do after you figure out that you got to just hold it up behind the other rail and make sure that the buttons are lined up on the same side. But it would have been a lot easier if they would have marked that specific rail. So then you're going to take it and you're going to put it in the extension on the end and just snap it together and make sure the button comes all the way out on the side. After that, I realized that I went ahead and put this on up on the truck, and it would have been easier to wait, but we'll go over that in just a minute. And then of course we got to put the other rail together, and we have to set it on the other side of the truck. Then you're going to get these flat pieces of metal which will eventually hold the rear bar from the cargo window down, and you're going to screw one on each side of the rail. This is where I was saying it would be easier to wait before you set the rail up to go ahead and screw these down on there first. Then of course we got to do the same thing on the passenger side and put the retaining bar over there. Then after placing the rails about a ½ inch in from the inside of the bed, you're going to put the clamps on. I had to take the clamp all the way apart and then start the thread because it just wouldn't reach all the way around without completely undoing it. Now, after you get done with this, we can tighten it a little bit with a wrench, but you don't want to go ahead and tighten it down like I do here, because that's going to be an issue in a minute because you're going to have to move it and adjust it after you put the top on. We also want to make sure that these clamps are between 10 and 13 inches from the front and the back of the rail. Now this part did get a little bit confusing, but you got to put the crossbars across here, and there are color-coded ends on one end of it. I think that it would have helped if there were the color-coded dots on both ends. It took me a little while to find the color that they said was there because it was only on one end of the crossbar. But after you figure that out, then you just put the corresponding spot in the same spot on the other side. You just have to make sure that you have your right and left pieces laid out correctly first. Now when I got to the very back one, it made it a little bit harder just because there was more rigidity to the frame at that point, and you couldn't twist it so that the button would release and come all the way through. Then we go back up to the rails, and there's a little spring there. It looks kind of like a keychain on the picture, but it's not. It's much easier to deal with than a keychain. So that little spring you just turn off, and then you can put the frame on there. Now the frame, it's important to note that the way that orientation is going to go is the vertical bar that has the hole in it will be on the rear side of the vehicle. Now for me, getting that to go on that pin was the hardest part of the whole thing because the frame was so rigid that I couldn't twist it a little bit in order for it to slide straight on the pin. So here I thought I really messed up because I have the Softopper frame in the truck, but you can't see most of it because you can see it's leaning down into the front of the bed. And so really what you have to do is now you have to release all those clamps, and you have to raise that Softopper frame up and then pull it forward until it just rests on the front of the bed. It's at that point that you can go ahead and tighten those 4 bolts down with a decent amount of torque, but you don't have to over tighten them because that thing's not going to go anywhere. Now it's time to put the fabric on, so we want to swing that frame over to the back of the truck and just drop it gently there and let it rest on the bottom of the bed. Now this is basically where this is going to turn into a giant origami puzzle. So you take that canopy and you set it on the tailgate with the back window flap facing upward. You can tell which one's the back because there's zippers on it. There's not zippers on the front window. Then you're going to take that row of buttons that's on that back window and you're going to roll it under the metal frame, and you're going to attach those buttons all the way across. Then we're going to find the row of buttons that's on the front window flap, And then we're just going to put it over the front of the bars and snap it across that very top bar. So you don't go under this time, you go over. I will say that this part of the process just makes you feel lost, like this thing is no way going to come together. But just follow the process step by step, look at the pictures in the manual, and it will turn out correctly. Now is when it starts to take shape, so you just kind of roll this up and over, and it just pulls the canvas right up along with it. You know, I was really pretty amazed at how well this came together just with this one step. So now you want to take the opportunity to fasten those front straps and the rear straps, and you just want a little bit of tension on those right now, because all you're doing at this point is just keeping it from falling forward or backwards. So now you just want to pull the driver's side down, and you just pull the fabric down, and you're going to snap it along that bed rail. It says to start at the front of the snaps, and so you'll want to go up to the front behind the driver's side door, and you'll want to snap those first. So I want you to snap the front two snaps and then go back and snap the rear one. Now, a little trick that I learned is if you pull that strap pretty tight to start with, then those snaps go on easier, and especially in the back. But when you get done, then you got to go back, you got to loosen those snaps up, because the instructions say that you want to share the load of that weight on between the snaps and the straps, okay? Then you take that front window and you roll it down between the back of the truck and the front of the camper top there. I found this really hard. It's the hardest part to putting the top up and down, because there's not a lot of space there. The next step is just to use the Velcro on the front corners to put that strap down. Then for this step you can use Velcro or the buttons. I recommend using the buttons. I mean, it's just 3 holes inside the truck bed. Nobody's ever going to see them anyway. And so you drill a pilot hole, and the male end of the button is actually built in the screw. So you just put that on a drill and screw it right in there where you made the pilot hole. There's only 3 of them. There's one on each side of that front window flap and one in the middle. So then the last steps, you put the tailgate retaining bar together. It just clips in the middle, and then you take the back window. There's a long loop in the bottom of it, and I would say you simply slide it through there, but it's very tight. It's excessively tight, actually. This was one of the hardest parts of the whole thing, was getting that bar to go in the loop. But once you get it in there, you don't have to fool with it anymore, unless you're like me and decide to change to a tinted window. Then to close that back window, all you do is put that tailgate retainer bar into the clips you screwed on the rails earlier, and there's a button on there that just holds it in so that it won't fall out. Now all you have to do is put the Velcro along the top of the tailgate. That way it holds that back window tight the whole time.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.